Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. You're tuning to Love the Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, your number one African Caribbean online radio. We are based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. At 11 o'clock every Saturday, we meet here to discuss, to talk about Africa. And today we have a very special show for you. And we have with us, momentarily, you'll be coming to have a conversation with me on this program, Today's Africa. If we come to look at the whole political terrain and governance in Africa, well, there's a lot of things that has got to be said. We have to discuss a lot of things for our own mutual benefit. So many progressives have come through this program, and today we are going to be taking it a step forward by introducing the Progressive Alliance for Ghana. And with me today, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you may be, is the chair of the Progressive Alliance for Ghana in the person of Dr. Thaddeus Ulzen. Hi, Doc. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good morning. Pleased to be on your show today.
We are so happy to have you with that. We've spoken a lot, and I was so excited to have come to the realization that the other side of you that I knew whilst you were in Toronto wasn't in politics.
That's so true.
It was rather in the musical sphere, if I can put it.
That's right.
That case. Because Torontonians applaud you with Dr. Sam Mensah for having brought to us Music Africa, which has become one of the largest African music festival in North America. We thank you for that.
It was a pleasure to contribute that to our community.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? It's the Music Africa is it's doing great. Honestly speaking, it has grown bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, Doc, we're going to be talking about the Progressive Alliance for Ghana, which you are the chair.
That's correct.
Could you please take us through, even before we go that route, kindly tell the listeners and the viewers who Dr. Thaddeus Ulzen is.
To introduce myself, really, to the listeners. Okay.
Yes, please.
Well, I'm professionally, I'm a physician. I'm an academic psychiatrist, and I've also always been very involved in community service wherever I've been. And over the years, as you mentioned, in Toronto, when I lived there for 16 years, we started the African Music Festival. We also had the Sounds of Africa radio show. And it was very important for me to add the heritage of Africa to the tapestry of the city of Toronto in those days. This was in the 80s. All through that time, though, I've always had involvement with a number of aspects of Ghanaian life within Ghana. At the same time, I've taught at medical schools in Ghana, and I've also been involved for many years as an essayist and an opinion writer on various aspects of Ghanaian life, social life and political life. What brings me to the Progressive Alliance for Ghana is a journey which began maybe about 10 years ago. For your listeners, Progressive Alliance of Ghana was registered as a political party by the Electoral Commission of Ghana just about a month ago. But the party itself has been about 10 years in the making. So about 10 years ago, a group of us who were members of a group called the Concerned Nkrumahist of North America got together. And even then, 10 years ago, we were saying that if we don't act to bring about some significant changes in the way Ghana is governed, within 10 years, our economy will collapse. And it is sad that we were prophetic at that time, because indeed, Ghana's economy can only be described as a collapsed economy at this point. So during that period of time, we started reaching out to other like-minded organizations, a principal one being the social justice movement, who are based in Bolgatanga and also in Accra, United Nkrumahist Front. So there were a number of community-based, Nkrumahist organizations. Even though the Nkrumahist political parties had really not been effective, on the ground in the society in Ghana, people were hungry for what Nkrumah stood for. As you realize, Ghana is a very young country. About more than 60% of the population is probably under 45. So many people in Ghana really had only heard about Nkrumah, never really experienced him. And people always pointed to things. Well, this was built by Kwame Nkrumah. This was built by Kwame Nkrumah. And so we realized that the political climate also involved a certain active element in, rather a bit of a fool's errand, trying to see if that they could erase Kwame Nkrumah from the history of Ghana. But Kwame Nkrumah is a global phenomenon. He's not just a Ghanaian political entity. So when we realized this, we decided that those of us who believe in the philosophy of the man, who believe that applying his ideas to the present day really will be a big part of rescuing the country from the economic doldrums that we have found ourselves in. So essentially, over the last 10 years, a number of groups got together and we formed the Progressive Alliance for Ghana, and we got our provisional certificate as a political party in 2019, and we've spent the last few years meeting the requirements of the Electoral Commission, and we have now fully registered as a political party. We describe ourselves as a neo-Nkrumahist party. That is Nkrumahism for the new generation in Ghana. That's what we hope to present on the political spectrum. Yes, I hope that helps.
That helps a lot. We have a long way to go today because I'm very, very interested in what you say. Can you give us an insight as to how, with these progressive, the 8 that you've sort of mentioned, which could you itemize or give us an idea of which progressive organizations?
Yes, they are well, ourselves, which is Concerned Nkrumahist of North America, Social Justice Movement. There's another organization called the United Nkrumahist Front. Then there's the Republican Alliance Party. There's Osagyefo Youth Movement. And then there is the All African Revolutionary Party. These are the main groups that form the basis of Progressive Alliance for Ghana. There's a smaller group called Voices That Care that is based in Tema, which is also an Nkrumahist group. And so over time, we are reaching out and finding these groups across the country. They're all operating quite independently. I mean, there are other organizations that are also well known, like Economic Fighters. They are not part of PAG, but they are certainly a group that we have fraternal relations with and that we are also talking with. Yes. And our goal is to bring together all these grassroots organizations to help PAG launch itself during the upcoming presidential elections. Yes.
Wow. 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 Very, very interesting and educational indeed. Now we are going to look at three topics that I have chosen. The first one is going to be about education. What do you think, in your estimation, what do you think PAG will do differently from what the two main parties in Ghana are doing that Ghanaians should sort of flock to PAG to give you the structures of governance?
Okay, well, let me say that we intend to have we intend to share policy briefs on different aspects of the of Ghanaian political life. Education is definitely something that is very dear to me. I'm an educator, as I said, a medical educator. There are no easy answers. I'll be honest with you. Most pillars of Ghanaian society have been completely destroyed in the last 32 years by the political culture that has been created by the NPP and the NDC. That is, all our institutions have been corrupted. You know how your computer file gets corrupted and then it doesn't work anymore. That's what has happened. These all our institutions have been corrupted both literally and metaphorically. Corrupted because indeed, if you do not pass money between yourself and another person in Ghana, you get no service. And this happens even within the education system, in the way the system works, or rather in the way the system has not worked. I wrote an article, I don't know, a few years ago, when the double track experience started for Ghanaian children, where they were going to school half a day and this sort of thing. And I called it double tragedy. You can find it online, and it basically explains my views on the problem. But let me say that, first of all, education has been, again, politicized and corrupted. Education is an aspect of our lives that should not be driven by political motives. It should be driven by the wealth of experts that we have in Ghana in the field of education, both within the country and outside the country. Ghana is a country that took the lead in education in Africa during the Nkrumah era. And there are so many educators available within and without the country. We have to look carefully about what the needs of the society are. That is what drives what you put in your education system. What are you educating people for? How do you want them to function? What sort of society do you want young people to function in? And how do you want them to function within the society and also within the global context? Because we are not isolated as a people. Thus far, our education system simply has been rooted in, shall we say, compiling information. There's a big difference between information and knowledge.
Yeah.
People tend to confuse the two things. But information is learning things in isolation and being able to parrot the information back. This is still the nature of our education system. Our education system does not teach children how to think critically and how to solve problems. So you see people in Ghana now who have finished secondary school and you think about yourself, a product of the same education system 50 years ago, when you finished secondary school, what you knew about Ghana, what you knew about the world, what you could do, and you look at a young person now who has finished the same level of education and does not have the competencies that you had, even 30% of those competencies. You know, everything has an outcome. So the product, the person who has completed the education system, gone through the system, what do they know and what can they do at that time? And Theo, this may be before your time, but in my grandmother's days, people finished something called Form 4. They called it Hall. Yes. And so essentially they finished primary school and middle school, and that was a certificate they had, and they went out into the world. My grandmother was one of these people. She had a Form 4 certificate. And when I was going through school, even with that certificate, you know, she was able to help me with my homework, mathematics, all kinds of things. I mean, so even people at that level knew so much. I don't think that people who finish secondary school right now are much ahead of those old Form 4 leavers. So that is really the problem. How do we solve this? This is going to be a very, very comprehensive review. It has to be done by educators, not by political players. It has more to do with whether you spend 3 years in senior secondary or 4 years. It's much more complex than that. It is what curriculum do we have? For example, we have a curriculum in which history, for example, was not taught. Now, Theo, if you do not know your own history, then you don't know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, then you don't have a standard for relating to the rest of the world. So you take in whatever people throw at you and you try to cobble an identity for yourself. When you meet young Ghanaians these days, they don't really know what it means to be a Ghanaian, because the education system has not given them a sense of who they are in the world through their own history. It hasn't happened. So they are already on a very, very weak foundation as they face the world. And they don't have enough skills. They don't have enough knowledge about themselves and about the world to be effective and contributing citizens of society. So that's a very, very big one. I don't think I have a simple answer, because it's going to really require experts. It's going to require looking at other systems that are similar to us. We need to be able to learn from systems that have produced good outcomes and adapt those systems with our own indigenous educational knowledge to produce education that will serve us for the future. That will serve us for the future. The world that we are in, which is highly digitalized, a lot of technology, it's a very different world, and we should be producing graduates who are ready to function and compete in the modern world, not people who are simply reciting, shall we say, Bible verses, because this is kind of what people count as education in Ghana these days.
Yeah. Yeah, you made a point that, as a matter of fact, I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and with respect to the fact that with the middle school living certificate that that was there, most of the middle school from 4 people became managers of established companies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. My whole question is, why was it relevant that time and not relevant this time? Because if you come to look at it, I was so saddened. Let me put this one in. I was watching, it was one of these holidays in Ghana, and I think it was in Nkrumahist, something to do with Dr. Nkrumah's birthday, something like that. And some of the media personnel, so 1 or 2 of them went to the Labadi Beach, I believe, and he was asking people as to the significance of that day. to be honest with you, I was very saddened. The person didn't know what the whole thing was all about. He says, oh, there's Kwame Nkrumah, but he didn't even know. So my whole thing is that how are we going to, or how is PAG going to change the whole sort of system to conform with what needs to be done? Because if it worked back then, it should be able to work right now. But because of politics and all those kind of stuff, you know what, we have to sieve and then get what will work for Ghanaians. Because if you look at the educational structure right now in Ghana, there are thousands of universities. And who are the professors?
Right.
Thousands
well, you see, yes. I think that, again, like I said at the beginning of the program, the MPP and NDC over a 32-year period have created a culture of politics that is totally corrupt. They have monetized the exercise of people's political rights in Ghana, and through this have destroyed all the institutions. Ghana has not developed. As a matter of fact, it has gone backwards in 32 years. So what you are doing is you are defining the problem and asking, what is our solution? The solutions are many and varied, and they are also all interconnected. So let me tell you something, for example. We currently have, because it all has to do with resources and priorities. So if a government has 120 ministers, as this government does, and then the other side who are trying to take them out say, oh, we can do it with 50 ministers, even though they already had a chance to do that previously and didn't do that. And these two groups keep making Ghanaians believe that they are the only choices. No, they are not the only choices. Right now, many people in Ghana say things like, well, if there isn't another alternative, I'm not voting in the next election. You know, a lot of people are tired of just having these two options and finding that they are not producing the results that serve the citizens. So really, let's take the size of government first. You have 120 ministers. And really, we don't need that many. Ghana is not a very big country. PAG proposes to do this with less than 14 ministers. And we are going to explain this to people very soon. We are also...
Say that again, please. Less than...
We propose a government of no more than 14 ministries.
14.
1-4. Yes.
Wow.
From 120.
Wow.
So, because all that bureaucracy is money. And I'm coming back to education. Education costs a lot of money. If you want quality education, you need to invest in the children. You need to invest in the schools, not invest in a bloated bureaucracy. So we have to make choices. Do we want a big government and poor schools, or do we want better schools but a slimmed down and more efficient government? These are the choices that we are going to ask Ghanaians to make as a party. Very simple questions. What do you want as Ghanaians? And why is this important? You know, to tell you the sort of how much it costs in education, this is not even primary education. But during Nkrumah's time, one of the outgoing last white vice chancellor, Conor Cruz O'Brien, said, in those days, the Ghana government was spending £10,000 sterling per student at the University of Ghana because the government wanted the highest quality of education for the students, because these were the people who were coming out to help run the country. So education is a very expensive investment, but it's an investment because you are investing in the future of the country itself. I think only two things are key: education and health, because those are direct investments in the persons in the country, the people, and they are the biggest resource of the country. They are the ones who apply the other resources to the development of the country. That is it. So right now, what we have is a government that is so huge that it is a parasite on the country itself. It is sucking the blood of the country to feed itself as a bureaucracy. It is not functioning to serve the people or the government, the people of the country in any way. Yeah.
So if I understand it clearly, there's going to be a massive overhaul of the educational structures that we do have right now, so that it will work for the average Ghanaian or all Ghanaians, so to speak.
Because, and it's going to require something that governments in Ghana have not done, which is community consultation. You have to go to the communities, and you have to speak with them and say, when your child goes to school in this community, what do you want them to achieve from going to school, and how is that going to serve this community? I mean, everything, we have to act locally and think globally. But we have to build it from what works for us locally and then apply it to the global situation that we are in. So I think that the first part of my answer to you is very broad community consultation. We have to do that because we can't do this top-down thing anymore. We have to build everything from the grassroots up. The people, look, people know what works for them. They don't need a government to come and tell them that. They actually know it. If you ask them to give you their input, so the people, what I'm saying is that we want people to be part of designing a system that works for them, not one that is being imposed, not one that is tied to some particular funding stream that's coming from outside that says, this is what we want you to teach, so go ahead and teach it, whether it works for us or whether it doesn't. Which brings us to the neo-colonial reality that we live in right now. You know, right now, government policies are determined by who gives us money when we go out begging. Yeah, so they say you want something for healthcare. This is what we want you to spend the money on. So design a system so that we can give you the money. It has nothing to do with the healthcare of the communities, what the people want, what they need, what they consider to be important in their healthcare. Everything is being driven by the outside. As Kwame Nkrumah said, you know, the encroachment of neo-colonialism. That's what we are dealing with right now.
Yeah. Folks, if you are listening to us on Love the Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, my name is DJ TYB, aka and if you are viewing us anywhere around the globe, well, we have a special guest, Dr. Thaddeus Ulzen, Chair of the Progressive Alliance for Ghana, a party that is going to be in contention with the upcoming elections. And we are introducing the alliance to you to make your choices. And we are now on the educational aspect of what PAG will be doing. Doc, if I again, it means if you're going to have a total overhaul through community consultation, it means you'll be cutting a lot of programs from other ministries and also to make your stance on re-revolutionizing the educational sector very viable. How do you intend to do that? Because there's going to be a lot of resistance. And again, what you're proposing is that it's not going to be a one-term. Let's assume that PAG wins the elections. It's not going to be a one-term kind of situation that you find yourself in. How are you going to be able to do that if it comes to that? Because there's going to be a lot of resistance. People are sucking money just like you said, vampires, right? Left, right, and center.
Yes,
So how are you going to
yes.
be able to do that?
You know, everything depends on the voters themselves. Let us assume it is a fair playing field. Right now, politics in Ghana is about vote buying. We have all seen the delegate conferences where somebody loses and said, "Oh, but I bought 20 deep freezers for the delegates, but they didn't vote for me." So the first thing is that people have to ask themselves if that is the country that they want, where their vote is for sale. You know, for a long time, smaller parties haven't done well because people have said, "Oh, if you vote for them, you are wasting your vote." I would like to challenge most Ghanaian voters to look at how they have voted in the last 32 years for these two big parties. Look at their surroundings. Look at the filth that we are living in the country. Look at the fact that we don't get services. Look at the fact that we have a very poor education system, probably 135th out of 183 in the world. This is the situation. And people should ask themselves if in the last 32 years, indeed, they have not wasted their votes. We have actually been wasting our votes for the last 32 years. And PAG is inviting people to now use their votes to serve them. The record is there. We have already wasted our votes. A vote for PAG can never be a wasted vote. At least you have a chance with a party that is telling you that we are not going to hide behind technicalities when it comes to corruption and allow people to walk free based on technicalities here and there. We are going to come full force for anybody who has stolen from the state. We will recover what is ours. We are making no apologies about corruption because corruption is costing us easily 5 billion, maybe more every year. Look at the fuss we made to go and get 3 billion from the IMF. But every year, we are throwing away between 5, maybe 7 billion dollars. Waste and corruption within the system. The money is there. It is just not being applied to what it should be applied to. And we are absolutely about integrity in government. And if you are not wedded to certain principles, you cannot have integrity. And if you don't have integrity, then you are not serving the people. You are just serving yourself. And this is what PAG is about. That is our message. Our message is very simple. And what does this have to do with Nkrumahism? Kwame Nkrumah represents that kind of leader who was incorruptible, who did not have a penny in his bank account when he was overthrown, who lived for his country. He is the picture of integrity in public life. And we make no apologies for saying this is the man whose life as a politician inspires this party to work with young people towards the future of the country. I mean, people like me, we don't have a future, we have a horizon. This party is about young people. We want young people to know the political history of this country and to be inspired by Nkrumah's work and to help them build a country for themselves because they are going to inherit that country. That's their future. Yes.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this educational trip that we are going through this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you may be. Now, let's shift to the economy. Again, what will PAG do differently? What the two parties doing or not doing?
Okay, I mean, in the context of a program like this, it's difficult to be very detailed, but let's just deal with the broad concepts.
That's right.
What did So what did we lose in 1966? So Theo, they say we've gone to the IMF how many times? I don't know. It's a large number of times. There's a number that is being thrown around. I don't know, it's 18 or 30. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's too many times. Do you know the first time we ever went to the IMF? May 1966. May 1966. Actually, Theo, let us observe just 10 seconds of silence. Today is the anniversary of Kwame Nkrumah's death. As we are speaking.
Okay.
It has just occurred to me. April 27th.
Yeah. Also, let's observe
a moment of silence. May his soul continue to watch.
May his soul rest in perfect peace. Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
So, what did we lose? What Nkrumah was trying to do was very simple. It was so simple that the enemy understood it. The other date that I also want you to bear in mind is that Nkrumah was overthrown, I think, barely 3 weeks after he commissioned the Akosombo Dam. So there are two things. One, so I'm answering your question about the economy.
That's right.
Okay. So one, we never went to the IMF until after Nkrumah was overthrown. 3 months after he was overthrown was the first time we went to the IMF, and we've been going ever since. We never went before. Okay. And then after he finally got the Akosombo Dam done, within 3 weeks or so, he was overthrown. These two things are very closely related, and they relate to your question. Because the economy before he was overthrown was not one in which we went around begging for money like we're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, the whole idea of our economic independence in his mind was related to our ability to provide energy to industrialize the country, right? And in industrializing the country, we were going to become more export dependent, less import dependent right now. Right now in Ghana, we even import toothpicks. Okay. When I was growing up, we made something similar in Ghana. We made matches in Ghana. They look like toothpicks, but they were matches. Okay. I guess what I'm pointing out is that we when I was growing up, we had almost everything that we used in daily life was actually manufactured in the country. So that was the path that we were going on. So if we are going to get out of this economic mess, it is going to require a very, very, very strong commitment to the scientific approach to agriculture so that we are fully self-sufficient with food production, enough to even export and have enough for ourselves, and also begin to build industries based on our agricultural base, and then also look at other aspects of the economy and try as much as we can, which is what we should do, to make and manufacture anything that we can make and manufacture in the country so that we do not use our earnings to import everything. This is why our currency continues to slide every day, because we are an import-based economy. We are not manufacturing enough. That is one thing. We have other resources. Yes, we have a lot of mines, gold, bauxite, manganese, whatever. These arrangements and deals really have not been structured to our advantage. What we've done is that we are passive royalty earners. So somebody comes and makes a big investment, you know, say $1 billion in a mine, whatever, and then we pick up a royalty. That's all we do. Well, if we really want to do better, then we also have to be part of the investment in the enterprise, right? So instead of stealing our money and taking it to foreign banks, we should be buying some equity in our own assets so that we actually own the exploitation. We're also part of the investment so that we are not only collecting a passive royalty check, but right now the amount of money that gets up and leaves the country, some of it would belong to us and will come to us. So we have to restructure all of those things. And it is what PAG calls principled nationalization. We are not going to try to take things away from people, but we have to become proper partners in the exploitation of our resources, not just somebody who sits at home and at the end they come and say, oh, this year we made 10 million, here's your check. No, we have basically given away our resources and we are no longer investing in those resources for ourselves. So there are many different aspects of the economy like this, which require very, very significant changes. Very significant changes. But clearly we have to become much, much less import dependent. Absolutely. And then we also have to, when we manufacture, see ourselves as part of a global, regional and global market. So if you're making something in Ghana, think about making it and exporting it to Ivory Coast or Mali, or, you know, that's our market. That's our local market. We have to begin to see ourselves as part of a region, a regional economy and a global economy. Look, I mean, we are falling behind so badly. You know, whenever I see that when they say Ghana is a second or third largest exporter of cocoa, I mean, I just get sad. When I was growing up, we were always number one.
Number one.
Always. Yeah. Now, we can't even keep up with our neighbor. In those days, Ivory Coast didn't even export cocoa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So all these people who claim in their long motorcades that this country is developing, all the objective indicators around us tell us that the country is worse off than it has ever been before. So again, economy, yes, there are so many things that we are going to do, but these are some of the broad strokes that I think help us to look at what are our guiding principles. Our guiding principles are, yes, we'll definitely become less import dependent in all the ways that are possible. We've done this before. We have so many factories that, what happened to them? They were given away to, during Rawlins's time, all the state assets were divested and given to friends and family, whether they had the technical prerequisites for running those factories or not. And where are they now? Lost, gone. So there's a lot that is going to have to be done, but a lot can still be done in partnership with good partners. You know, being independent doesn't mean that you don't partner with people, but you have to take responsibility for protecting the interest of your country in those partnerships, your citizens. Right now, when people go into these arrangements, they just want to know what they can get out of it. And whether it is a good or bad deal for the country is a secondary matter. And this is where things really, really have to change. And because they do this, why? Because this is how they skim off the money of the country's business into their political parties to buy the votes of the voters.
Yeah.
So the pattern is very clear. It is very simple. We are all seeing it.
So I'm so glad you are addressing that. How are you going to tackle? I mean, we are within the same period. How are you also going to tackle youth unemployment? Because it's a national security issue.
Very good. It is I love the way you have framed it as a national security issue. You know, we have 120 ministries right now. Do you know that there is no ministry of cooperatives in that 120? Yes. I bring this up because that is how PAG intends to tackle youth unemployment. We have to gather the people who are educated, have some skills, and we have to combine the cooperative philosophy of skill building, job training, the government financing small businesses and cooperatives to achieve self-sufficiency. This is going to be the central pathway that PAG is proposing to solve youth unemployment. We are not going to solve youth unemployment with these 2-day programs. What is the one they call a NAPCO or something? I don't know what they do. They go around and come back and they say, oh, we've done it. This is not solving unemployment. Look, cooperatives have been very effective across the world in lifting people out of poverty. We may even have to provide funding to some of the poorest and subsistence farmers, direct cash, to lift people up to a place where they can sustain themselves afterwards in what they are doing. The point is that you have to decide where you want to spend your money. And anytime you spend your money on your citizens, you get the payback that you deserve. So the short answer is that we are going to use a very comprehensively designed system of cooperatives, skill building, and financial support for small businesses that are assessed and evaluated through this cooperative system to create jobs, to support jobs, and to help people sustain themselves. We're not going to be able to do it by just finding jobs, no, but also as we expand the economy in the manner that I have described to you, more jobs will be created through the expansion of the economy, through re-industrializing the country. But then I always worry we have to be sure that we have a competitive workforce that is able to support the sophistication of re-industrialization in Ghana. Because that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. So yes, we do have a plan that is in the simplest terms, the pathway that we are going to use. We are going to use a system that is inspired by the cooperative movement to get people back on track. And we're going to invest in our citizens. We are going to invest in helping them to build skills to make them competitive workers and also make them self-sufficient. Agriculture is one of the areas in which this can be done very well and very easily, but it can be done in other spheres of life. I mean, if a group of young people want to become auto mechanics, for example, you can get them into a cooperative. They form a small company. We support them. We train them. We have people who come to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. They meet standards and guidelines. In any aspect of life, you can have cooperatives if that is part of the government's vision for the people. And that's part of our vision. Because there are so many young people capable, but there is no leadership around unemployment. We don't have unemployment figures. And even if we had them, they'll be meaningless. They'll be meaningless numbers. So it is a very, very important issue. As you point out, it is also a security issue because, as they say, idle hands do the devil's work. You know, so people have to be busy, they have to be working, and they want to be busy and they want to be working. Yeah. So that is my short answer for that. But I think it gives you an idea of how we are thinking about it as a party.
Yeah, we are introducing PAG today. We are not going to go deeper and deeper into what really needs to be done. But this is just to introduce PAG to Ghanaians and progressives around the globe. My next question will be about healthcare. You touched on it briefly. How are you going to tackle that? Because it's broken down. We live in a country, where a whole Ministry of Health warehouse got burned down for some reason. We didn't know. Ghana lost massively, and yet nobody was brought to book. So I'm saying this to say that corruption has seeped deeper into the society. How are you going to be able to do that? Because you have to be able to give the security agencies, or there's a lot of things that is gone awry in Ghana. So many that you cannot sort of put a finger on. It's going to be tough, but I think with the right people around in the right mindset and everything, with all Ghanaians, pushing the cart together, I think we can get there with the right attitude, just like you indicated.
Yes, healthcare. Well, I mean, as you know, I'm a physician, so this is something that is dear to my heart. Again, healthcare in a country like ours must be based on a solid system of prevention and public health. Because, to put it simply, when you're a poor country, you can't afford to have people get sick. Because if they get sick, it costs you money.
Okay.
So our whole approach should be aggressively rooted in prevention and public health. There are many different ways of doing this. First of all, there is a maldistribution of professionals. Many of them, you see, when you have a healthcare system that is functioning well, it shouldn't matter where you are in the country when you need services. You should be able to get the same level of care. That's one thing. So you want to make sure that your manpower for healthcare is equally distributed across the country. But related to that is that you must have adequate infrastructure to support healthcare across the country. The reality, you see, what the both major two parties have been investing in is building hospitals, not because they think we need hospitals, but that these contracts make them money. Let's be blunt about it. Mm-hmm. So right now, one of the last big sweeps of the NPP government is something they call Agenda 111, and they're going to build 111 hospitals, 111 hospitals across the country. The point is that it's not so much that you need a hospital around every corner. That's not healthcare. Healthcare is to be rooted in the community. The community. There should be health literacy. People should understand. You know, one of the things I always say in Ghana is that Ghanaians don't understand germs. It says a lot. When I say that, you can get all kinds of pictures.
That's right.
Yes. So health literacy is fundamental. It should be part of the education system, which is where we started our discussion right at the beginning, so that everybody is a vessel for healthcare prevention, every individual. That's how you get the broad base of proper, adequate health in the society. And then there are models, some of which have been perfected in places like Cuba, a public health model where the physicians have panels. They know the community that they are working in. And these systems are the kinds of systems we should be looking at that help us to build capacity within our own healthcare system. If you want people to work in rural areas, you have to incentivize them to work in rural areas. Nurses, teachers, doctors. Because if somebody is working in Bimbila, and then you pay that person the same amount of money as the person living in Accra, then you are not recognizing that the person in Bimbala is having to work harder than the person in Accra to do the same job, to get to work, to get support, everything. You've got to pay the person in Bimbala more than the person in Accra for the same rank. So instead of punishing people by, transferring them out to small areas, you should actually be rewarding people for wanting to go there. You should incentivize, you should actually pay them more because they are working in areas of hardship. And then you are going to be able to retain people who are skilled in these rural communities who can lead the healthcare agenda in the smaller communities. You've got to do that. We don't understand what is required really to bring about health equity across the country. There's no reason why, if we are in government, anybody will be flying out anywhere for healthcare. That will not be happening under our watch. We have 6 medical schools, and if we cannot look after ourselves, then we have to shut them all down. And I say that because I think we can, but we are not investing in a system that allows the professionals to do the work that they are trained to do. Why are Ghanaian doctors successful in the United States and can't be successful in Ghana? It's not the doctors, it's the system. It's a system that they are working in. The doctors and the nurses, is a system that they are working in. And this system has to be completely redesigned, and it has to be extremely community-based. It will be cheaper in the long run for the country. We will have a healthier population, and we will not need, we will save money, and we can invest that money in the infrastructure that supports healthcare. You can have 111 hospitals like the NPP wants to do, but if there are no roads leading to those hospitals, what is the point?
Wow.
Yeah. So we have had 32 years of wasted governance in Ghana, and PAG is sounding the alarm that Ghanaians have to understand that there is an alternative. We don't have to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. We have to do something different. We have to vote differently.
Yeah,
yes, definitely.
We have to do something about it. But if the structure, the institutions are not strong, how are you going to be able to do that? Because the system has broken down. So we are going to be working from the bottom up. So if the institutions are still in the state that we find them right now, how are you going to be able to achieve the results that you are expecting? Not you are expecting, that will make Ghanaians, feel prosperous in so many different or diverse ways.
It requires good leadership, and it requires political will. That is the desire to get this done. Right now, none of these things are happening because there is no political will to change anything. The status quo works for a very few people, and they are in control, and they keep it there. So they don't have the desire to change anything. We are saying, we absolutely say that this is not working for the country. So we are going to join with our citizens, many of whom are happy to be part of the transformation of the country, but have stayed out of politics up to this point because they feel that they simply cannot work within the current framework of politics in the country. They can't. They are not able to. And so we always say in PAG, we are waking up all the dead Nkrumahis from their graves. There are a lot of people who want to do it, but they've not had an organization, a party that says, hey, this is our time. Let's get up. Let's do this. We do have the resources. We have people. We have trained people from within the country, outside the country. We can put all our knowledge together and we can transform this country for the future, for the present and for the future, for sure. We can. But it is a question of leadership and it is a question of political will, the desire to get this done. Because, Theo, if I'm in charge of something and I come and every day I am tasking people to reach the targets that we have set for ourselves, people will do it because we are doing it as a team under leadership. But if the way we do things is bereft of the core principles of good management, nothing in Ghana is properly managed. So you've got to understand the problem. We see it for what it is. We need good managers, well-trained, but also driven with a will to succeed. This is not going to be a one-day thing. There are a lot of people who are going to be purged, for sure, because you can't, you can't reach the destination with the old team. If you have a team that hasn't won the Africa Cup and you keep fielding the same team every time, it's not going to win the cup. You're going to have to make some serious changes in the team, the coach and some of the players too. so we are definitely saying yes, change the coaches. You got to change the coaches. That's what Progressive Alliance for Ghana, that's what we are about. Yes.
Yeah. I was looking at one of your core values, and the second one that pricked my mind was principled nationalization.
Yes.
Can you address that, please? Yeah. Can you?
Well, I talked a bit about that a little earlier when I talked about the mining sector. That we have to be principled about the resources of the country. We have to understand what these resources represent to the citizens of the country. It's not something just to be given away to somebody and say, oh, go and dig for it. And then at the end of the day, give me 5% of what you get. That is without principle. That means you yourself as a government, you don't value and respect the resources that you have. That's what that means to me. But if you say, look, this is a very important asset. We know that you have the technical know-how. It's going to cost $1 billion to extract this chemical, whatever it may be, to sell it, process it, and sell it. So we as a government want to be a proper partner. We will find $500 million and invest with you so that the returns that come will be more than that 5% I was going to get as a royalty, because I can now use those returns over time to help develop my country. That's what principled nationalization is about. We are not just saying, oh, this is ours, so give it to us, bring it. No, nobody's going to do that these days. Why should they invest and then just give it to you? No, you have to be a proper partner. You have to be a grown-up in the room. You have to find money to invest in your own resources. Because in the end, when you do that, then your own people are part of the enterprise. Then people learn the skills of mining. You invest in it. And over time, they have the capacity to run these institutions on behalf of the country. We're not doing any of that. We're not doing anything like that. We just sit down, oh, you go and do it and bring me 5%. Oh, I mean, that's not going to work. And it hasn't worked. So we have the ability to earn more from our resources, but we also have to invest in those enterprises as equal partners so that people respect us. But if you just want to collect 5% at the end of the day, why should they respect you? They'll bring you your check and then that's the end of it. They'll pollute your environment. They'll do all kinds of things. But if you are really a partner, guess what? You are also the eyes and ears for your environment. Because you are part of this. You are not going to allow people to destroy your environment whilst you are part of it. When you are not part of it, you hear that your environment has been destroyed, and then you run around pretending you can do something about it. That's what that's where we are right now. Yes, awesome. But that's what we mean by principled nationalization.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that. Before we even go, because this is just an introduction to, introduction of PAC to Ghanaians and progressives elsewhere. We'll bring you back, and then at that time we'll go into the details of everything. But then, how is the government of the PAG going to relate in terms of our foreign affairs? Yes. What will be your stance?
Okay, first you come to another area. Again, foreign affairs diplomacy has been totally politicized. Many of our properly trained professional diplomats were completely subjugated to political appointees, so that our foreign policy was now just a place for patronage jobs. Friends, relatives, girlfriends all become ambassadors. Whether they have any background or knowledge in this area was not particularly relevant, has not been particularly relevant. So first of all, we have to re-professionalize our foreign service, bring back the professionals into the game. But our foreign policy as PAG is one that is rooted in Pan-Africanism. That is our core. That is the way that PAG feels that Ghana should relate to the rest of the world. What is good for Africa is what we are about. And that is what is going to determine our relationship with any foreign entity. So in a nutshell, that is the driving force for our foreign policy.
Awesome. And you indicated that you've registered PAG to contend the upcoming elections. When are you going to launch the party? The party.
Okay, very good. The party will be launched in Cape Coast from July 29th, from June 29th to July 1st. And on July 1st, what we in PAG call Republic Day, we will announce our ticket for the elections on that day. We are currently in the process of talking with a number of interested parties, and but we are sure that we will have our Congress and we will democratically choose our ticket for the elections, and we'll be ready. As I said, PAG is a new party as far as it has only recently been registered, but it is a party that has been 10 years in the making. We have been working for a long time, building alliances, working with different groups. So we are not now beginning to enter the political arena. And as you can see, we have very clear ideas about what we intend to do, because these ideas have not been developed over the last month. They've been developed over a process of consultation over a number of years, very carefully studying what ails our country and what we can do as Ghanaians to bring, to right the ship and get it straight. Yeah.
So how can somebody get in touch, or somebody if they are interested in getting more information about PAG? Because
right. Joining PAG.
How do they do that?
Yes, right now we the best way to reach us, you can reach us through our Facebook page, Progressive Alliance for Ghana, Progressive Alliance for Ghana NKRUMAHIST. You can reach us on Facebook. You can also go to our website, proalliancegh.org. And most importantly, you can make a donation to PAG on our website directly, because we need funds to support our regional offices and our regional executives who are working very hard on the ground right now to introduce the party to the Ghanaian electorate. Anybody can reach us through any of these means. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And somebody said, now I have my big question for you: the resurgence of Nkrumahist in Ghana. Are we true to that fact?
So, it takes, when people say Kwame Nkrumah was a visionary, people throw that around a lot. So he was a visionary. So what happens with visionaries is that they define the world as they see it evolving and tell people about it. But very often people are not ready to hear the message. They are living in the here and now. But the visionary is saying, where is this here and now going to lead us 20, 30, maybe even 50 years down the line? So I think that, and we in PAG believe that, through talking with different Ghanaians over the last few years, that suddenly is not the right word, that slowly over time, Ghanaians are now beginning to understand what Nkrumah was saying in the early 60s. Mm-hmm. Ghanaians are now beginning to understand why he was building all those factories, which people thought were a strain on the economy, but they were really the investment in the future that we never made, which has impoverished us now. So Ghanaians are now beginning to understand, for example, a word that they thought was a word to joke around with, neo-colonialism. Now we are realizing that we have become a neo-colonial state. Mm-hmm. Ghana has become a neo-colonial state. I mean, Ghana, the lodestar of African freedom, is now a neo-colonial state. We have leaders who jump to the tune of foreign governments. That, I remember one of the NPP, party hacks saying one time, because the president had gone overseas and maybe some loans had been signed, and he says, "Oh, it's great. He always comes back with goodies." I mean, he really thought that going overseas and begging for money is something to be proud of. That is what neo-colonialism is about. That you are turned into a beggar entity. And then the person who responds to your cries for resources now tells you how to live your life, what to do. If you borrow money, they tell you, we need you to change your education system to this, to get the money. We need you to cut back on this or cut back on that. So we believe that Nkrumah has now become more relevant in the daily lives of Ghanaians than he has ever been since he was overthrown. It is now that Ghanaians are understanding why the Temamoto Way was built. Today I saw a video of some guy traveling to Kumasi with a big stretch of dust. And he was just saying, I mean, why can't we get the road between our two largest cities done once and for all? Almost 70 years after independence, we are still struggling with this. So it is clear that Ghanaians are now really beginning to understand why it was important to build those factories, why it was important to manufacture everything in Ghana that we could manufacture in Ghana. They are now beginning to understand it. And I think now that it is becoming obvious. Even political people from the other political tradition are now confessing publicly that when they look back, there has been no one greater than Kwame Nkrumah for the good of the country. Yes. And I think it's I always say to people also who say, oh, well, why are you outside the country and bothering yourself so much with all this? You know, like you people in the diaspora, what do you care? Well, first of all, those of us in the diaspora spend a lot of our money in Ghana. We are Ghanaians, and we spend, and as a matter of fact, without that money, the country would be in worse shape. It's billions of dollars. And we do, because we love our country no less than those who are living in the country. And what people also do not realize, which is so obvious, is that Kwame Nkrumah was a diasporan. So there's nothing that says that good ideas must only come from within the borders. Kwame Nkrumah himself was a diasporan. He just like the rest of us. He went out to seek his education, his fortune. But well, he came back anyway. It didn't make him less of a Ghanaian. He brought us independence from what he had learned from being around the world. It made him realize that indeed we needed to be free. We were not free people. So, you know, I think all of these ideas are now coming together in the minds of Ghanaians. People are really beginning to see that he was the kind of politician that we are begging for today. Somebody who will not misuse state money, somebody who will not practice nepotism, somebody who will not, you know, supervise the theft of state assets, you know, somebody who can discipline his ministers. No, you know, which is what he did. If he felt that there was a perception of corruption, even just perception, he was able to fire you. So, but now people say, oh no, you have to go to court and prove that the person has stolen money, even if it takes 10 years before. No. This is just hiding behind technicalities. Yeah. We all know that the numbers don't add up. The numbers don't add up because we know how much we make, we know what we need to do, and if we don't stop spending more than we take in, we are not going to solve our problems in Ghana. It's just that simple. So I believe, and PAG, we strongly believe that Ghanaians are now finally understanding what Kwame Nkrumah was about, and that his ideas are still relevant in solving our problems today. That is really what PAG is getting across to people. That Nkrumahism is not about nostalgia. You know, we are not a nostalgic party. We are inspired by those ideas, and we think those ideas can be adapted for solutions on the ground today. Yes, that's the resurgence of Nkrumahism that PAG is.
I'm really, really glad that you made that statement, because a lot of people will say that oh well, you know, Nkrumah came in way back and stuff like that. But then if you come to look at what he did, what he stood for, it's all glaring for us to see. I quite remember, I was so saddened when I read that the gold refinery that he was trying to build in Takwa or something like that is left in the bush. There are so many things that the Osagyefo did because he had a foresight. He did what he had to do. He believed himself as an African, a Pan-Africanist, an African to the core.
Yes.
He said,
yes,
Africa is not poor, but Africans are poor. And how can we reverse that trend? Because God has given us everything. Everything. Somebody told me that I think God loves Africa much more than any other race. And he's right. Because of the fact that we have so many natural resources, human resources, so many things. My question is, how then do we see our children, our brothers and sisters crossing the Mediterranean only to go and die? Because you know what? If conditions were great, we can all build our greener pastures where we are. But the system has not been so great to us and for us.
Exactly.
Few people are benefiting from the system. And then that's where I say the national security has got to be looked at, because the devil finds work for the idle hands. So
Yes.
from where I sit right now,
yes,
I think
absolutely.
you guys, PAG is on the right track. And I would like also to put it out there that, you know what, if any of the other parties want to come in here and you know what, come and talk about it, that's fine. About their vision, that is fine. But today we are introducing, or we have introduced, the Progressive Alliance for Ghana, which is going to be contending the upcoming elections, and it's going to be launched in Cape Coast, as Doc said, from June 29th to Republic Day. Republic Day is the 1st of July, if
That's
people even remember that. Go ahead, please, if you have your final thoughts for us, please.
My final thoughts, essentially...
I'm going to give you enough time. Go ahead, and I won't say anything. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Theo. My final thoughts are really actually quite simple. The situation in Ghana is dire. It is very serious. We should not deceive ourselves about the seriousness of the economic difficulty that we are in. This economic difficulty is being borne on a daily basis by the ordinary Ghanaian citizen, who is not benefiting from the bountiful resources of the country. We in PAG recognize this. We recognize the suffering, just like you said. I mean, what suffering? You know, if a government is in power and its citizens are crossing the desert to get onto the other side to escape hardship, then the government has failed completely. And the other option, who have already had their chance, come back and say, oh, they are worse and we are bad, so we are better. I don't think that this is going to wash with Ghanaians anymore. Ghanaians are looking for an alternative. They are looking for people who are going to be selfless, who are going to put everything they can into turning this country around. We believe that the principles espoused by Kwame Nkrumah, that he wrote about extensively, that he tried to implement in Ghana, that in many ways we are still standing on his shoulders, because some of the core institutions he built are still the institutions that are keeping the country going long after his departure. So right now, we are calling for all Ghanaians who are absolutely against the level of corruption that we are seeing in our country, who believe that we can come together, we have the expertise, both within and outside the country, to lead our country out of this morass. We want all of them to certainly contact us at Progressive Alliance of Ghana, and we are prepared to work with all like-minded Ghanaians to achieve that goal. We believe that we are ready as a party to offer ourselves as an alternative to this duopoly that has completely ground the country to a halt after 32 years of partnership together between the NPP and the NDC. It is not, they are not the only options in Ghana. We think that people should begin to think objectively. They should look at their surroundings. They should look at their day-to-day lives and ask themselves, have these two parties really helped us as citizens of Ghana? That is it. Just, we are not going to point fingers. We want the citizens to examine their own livelihoods and decide if the 32-year partnership, and I call it a partnership between the NPP and the NDC has really done anything good for Ghanaians. And they will find that the honest appraisal is that it has not. And it is time, just as Kwame Nkrumah himself saw at one point that the UGCC was not going to cut it, and he formed the CPP then. We are saying this partnership of NPP-NDC is not going to cut it. PAG is offering a new beginning for the country because we are supposedly an independent country, but we actually need to become independent from neocolonialism today. And that's what PAG is about. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity as chairman of PAG on behalf of the board of PAG, our board members and our members in Ghana who are listening, that the race has begun and PAG is in it to the very end. Thank you.
And thank you, Doc, for setting aside your precious time to be with us today. And we hope you come back next time. And the next time, we are going to go into figures. We are going to go deeper into so many different areas. We couldn't cover a lot of areas that we were supposed to cover, but we'll make time once again. And folks out there, the launching of the PAG is going to be June the 29th until the 1st of July. That's Republic Day. And until we meet again next week with a new guest, take care of yourselves and each other. We are here every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. GMT. Folks, Africa is not poor, but Africans are poor. And we stand the test of time to reverse this because God has endowed us with so many things that for the lack of proper leadership, this is how we find ourselves. All is not lost. We can get there. Until then, take care of yourselves once again and each other. Bye-bye.